Once upon a time, on a cold, snowy winter's day, a queen sat sewing by her window. As she stitched, she pricked her finger with the needle, and 3 drops of blood, bright as rubies, fell onto the freshly fallen snow on the windowsill. The sight was so striking, the vibrant red against the pure white, that she sighed and whispered to herself, "Oh, I wish I had a daughter with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as the ebony wood of this frame." Her wish was granted. Not long after, the queen gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Her skin was indeed as white as snow, her lips as red as blood, and her hair as black as ebony. They named her Snow White. But their happiness was fleeting, for the good queen passed away shortly after the child was born. A year later, the king took a new wife. The new queen was stunningly beautiful, but her heart was cold, and she was consumed by vanity and pride. She couldn't bear the thought of anyone being more beautiful than she was. She possessed a magical mirror, and every single day she would stand before it, admiring her reflection and asking, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" And every day the mirror would reply, "You, my queen, are the fairest of all." This answer was the only thing that brought her true joy. But as the years went by, Snow White grew. She blossomed from a sweet baby into a lovely little girl. Even at the tender age of 7, her beauty was so radiant and natural that she had already surpassed the queen. One fateful morning, the queen stood before her mirror and posed her usual question. But this time, the mirror's answer was different. It declared, "You are fair, O queen, it's true. But Snow White is 1,000 times fairer than you." The queen was thunderstruck. Her shock quickly morphed into a furious rage. Her jealousy was like a poison, twisting into a deep-seated hatred for her stepdaughter. From that day forward, she couldn't even stand to look at Snow White. Her envy and anger festered, growing stronger with each passing day until she could no longer endure it. Finally, she summoned her most trusted huntsman. Her voice was ice as she gave him a chilling order. "Take Snow White deep into the forest," she commanded. "I want you to kill her. And as proof that the deed is done, you will bring me back her heart." The huntsman, though loyal, was horrified. But he dared not disobey the queen. He led the unsuspecting Snow White deep into the wild woods. He told her they were going to pick flowers. But when they were far from any prying eyes, he drew his hunting knife. As he raised it, ready to strike, Snow White saw the glint of the steel and the grim look on his face. She fell to her knees and began to weep. "Oh, please, dear huntsman, spare my life," she begged. "Don't hurt me. Just let me go, and I promise I will run into the forest and never, ever come back." The huntsman looked down at her innocent, tear-streaked face. Her kindness and beauty touched his heart, and he knew he couldn't do it. He couldn't kill this child. "Run," he urged her, his voice low. "Run away, child, and never return to the castle." To deceive the cruel queen, he found a young wild boar, killed it, and took its heart back to the palace, presenting it as Snow White's. The queen, believing her rival was finally gone, was overjoyed. In a gruesome display of triumph, she had the heart cooked and ate it. Convinced she was once again the most beautiful woman in the land. Meanwhile, poor Snow White was lost, alone, and terrified in the vast, dark forest. The towering trees seemed to lean over her like giants, and every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, made her jump in fear. "What will I do?" she sobbed to herself. "Oh, where am I?" She ran and ran, stumbling over roots and pushing through thorny bushes for hours, with no idea where she was going. Finally, just as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, she stumbled into a small clearing. And there, nestled amongst the trees, was a strange, tiny cottage. It was the quaintest little house she had ever seen. Exhausted and with nowhere else to go, she cautiously approached the little wooden door. She knocked softly, hoping to find a kind soul inside who might offer her shelter for the night. The door creaked open, and what she saw inside was even stranger than the house itself. 7 tiny chairs were set around a tiny table, 7 little plates, 7 little cups, and upstairs, 7 little beds, all neatly made. It looked like a home for children, but whose home was it? And would they let her stay? Deep in the woods, Snow White stumbled upon a charming little cottage. Inside, everything was tiny. She found 7 small plates, 7 little cups, and 7 little beds, all lined up in a row. Feeling hungry and oh so tired, she nibbled a tiny bite from each plate and took a small sip from each cup. Then she tried out each of the 7 beds, one by one, until she found one that was absolutely perfect. Exhausted from her long journey, she quickly fell into a deep sleep. That evening, the owners of the cottage, 7 Dwarfs, returned home from a long day of mining for jewels in the mountains. As they walked in, the first dwarf noticed something was amiss. "Look, someone has been in our house," he exclaimed. The others quickly looked around. "Who's been sitting in my little chair?" cried one. "And who's been drinking from my cup?" asked another. "Someone ate from my plate," a third one gasped. Then the 7th dwarf, looking towards his bed, whispered, "Someone's been sleeping in my bed. And look, she's still there." The dwarfs gathered around the little bed, their lanterns held high. "Who is she?" they wondered aloud. "She's so beautiful," one said softly. "Oh yes, what a lovely girl," another agreed. They decided not to wake her, letting her sleep peacefully. The 7th dwarf, whose bed she was in, kindly took turns sharing the other dwarfs' beds throughout the night. The next morning, Snow White woke up and was quite startled to see 7 little men staring at her, but their faces were full of kindness, not anger. They gently asked her name and how she had found their hidden cottage. Snow White told them everything about her cruel stepmother, the kind huntsman who had spared her life, and how she had wandered lost and alone through the dark forest. The dwarfs felt sorry for her. "If you'll keep our house tidy for us," they offered, and cook, clean, and sew. You can stay here with us. We will protect you from any harm." Snow White's heart filled with gratitude. "Oh, thank you," she cried. "I will." And so she began a happy new life with her 7 new friends. Every morning, before they left for the mines, the dwarfs would give her a serious warning. "Be very careful, Snow White," they'd say. "Don't let anyone into the house. Your stepmother is wicked, and she will soon discover that you're still alive." And they were right. Back at the Grand Palace, the evil queen stood before her magic mirror once more, a cruel smile on her face. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" she demanded, but the mirror's reply sent her into a rage. "You are fair, O Queen, it's true, but Snow White, beyond the hills with the 7 dwarfs, is 1,000 times fairer than you," the Queen shrieked with fury. "She's alive. I will not be defeated." Determined to finish the job herself, she used her dark magic to disguise herself as a poor old peddler woman. She traveled over the 7 mountains until she reached the dwarf's cottage. Knocking on the door, she called out in a scratchy voice, "Lovely laces for sale. Beautiful, colorful ribbons." Snow White, thinking the old woman was harmless, peeked out. "Good day, madam. What are you selling?" she asked. She opened the door just a crack to admire the pretty laces. "Oh, how lovely," she sighed. "Allow me, dearie," the disguised queen said, stepping inside. "A pretty thing like you needs this tied just right." As she tightened the lace around Snow White's bodice, it grew tighter and tighter until Snow White couldn't breathe and collapsed. Now, the queen cackled, "I am the fairest," once again. Luckily, the dwarfs returned home early that day. They found Snow White lying motionless and quickly cut the tight lace. Air rushed back into her lungs, and she was revived. "That was your evil stepmother," they warned her. "Promise us, Snow White, you will not open the door to anyone again." But the queen, upon returning to her castle, consulted her mirror again, only to hear the same infuriating words. Snow White was still the fairest. Enraged beyond measure, she vowed, "This time she will not escape." The queen created a new disguise and crafted a beautiful but deadly comb laced with a powerful poison. She journeyed back to the cottage, ready to try again. Will the queen succeed this time? We'll find out in the next part of our story. Thanks so much for watching. If you're enjoying this magical adventure, please give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. See you soon.